A while ago, Epic Games was giving away Oxenfree, so I got it. It looked nice enough, so I knew that I would give it a chance sooner or later, and about a week ago, it was time for that to happen. Now that I've played through it several times, I am ready to tell you what I think of it. But before we get into the finer details of the game, it's important to talk about the game's support of ultra-wide resolutions. Unfortunately, the only way to get it to work in ultra-wide is by applying a fix which I found on the internet. What I found especially annoying was the fact that the devs actually responded to the numerous requests for ultra-wide support with a short statement declaring that there will be no such thing. That's it. I guess it's too hard for them to do what a single modder did within a few hours. The thing that angers me the most is that their statement shows a level of laziness which is often projected by developers of games even to this day. They treat ultra-wide resolutions as though they are an exception, which is simply no longer the case. Tons of people have such monitors now, since the entry-level devices are not even expensive anymore. In any case, since the game was not designed with ultra-wide in mind, some of the backgrounds will cut off early if you apply the fix. But this is perfectly fine. I'd rather have my screen filled even if there are weird graphical problems on the edges. With that being said, let's move on with the actual review of Oxenfree. The game is a 2.5D adventure game, meaning that you will mostly move in two-dimensional spaces with a bit of depth movement, but not much. It starts with a couple of teenagers going on an island at night with the intention of having a party. We control Alexandra, a girl who has brought her new stepbrother to the gathering. The game quickly starts offering us dialogue choices which seem to be quite different, indicating that the choices will lead to various outcomes. Not only do we get to decide some things for our character, but we've even been granted the option to forge her character through her choices. She can be nice and agreeable or be more of a bitch to everyone. It all depends on what we choose. At first, I assumed that this was going to be another horror game, but luckily that was not really the case. Oxenfree quickly separates the cast and introduces supernatural elements to the story. After about an hour and a half, it was clear that the story will revolve around time travel. That's one of my favorite science fiction directions, so needless to say, I was all in from that point. While I won't spoil the actual story, I can tell you that it will present our protagonist with plenty of choices which won't only influence the present and the future, but also the past. All the dialogue is voiced here and the voice acting is excellent. What I really liked about it was the fact that the voice actors sound more like genuine people rather than supermodels talking in cool and sexy ways. Their interactions felt down to earth and believable. Unfortunately, this is also where the first issues become obvious. While the conversations are well written, their execution is, well, let's call it weird. You get the response options before the person is even done talking, and they disappear while the person still speaks as well. This means that if you select a response, Alexandra will automatically almost always cut off the other person and say what is on her mind. If you try to avoid this by waiting for the talking person to finish, your response option will simply disappear due to the short time limit imposed on them, and you will not have anything to say. Our character will remain silent. This can be very frustrating and kills the immersion for me. Strangely enough, sometimes our protagonist will wait for her friends to finish their sentence before responding. It's really a dice roll, and I'm sad to say that it almost always did not work as it should. The game is mostly carried by its story and the way the characters interact with each other. Alexandra is carrying a radio which can be used to receive radio waves and solve the super simple puzzles in the game. Essentially, you walk and talk until something happens. Once that's the case, the solution is pretty much always pulling out your radio and finding the correct frequency. It doesn't sound like much, but the story and voice acting are good enough to carry you through this adventure. One of the main things that annoyed me was the fact that the game feels on rails. You can do some minimal exploration in order to find more backstory, but it's not something that you'll feel like doing because of how slowly our protagonist is moving. She will sometimes run, but only rarely. The game doesn't let you choose when to run and when to walk. It's all scripted into the game, and 90% of the time you will be walking slowly. My first playthrough took me about 7 hours to complete, and I can't help but feel like I've spent 2 hours more than I really should have, simply due to the slow walking. The conversations you can have with the different characters are interesting and help entertain the player while the characters are moving from A to B, but there are also lots of times when nothing is being said, and those bored me a lot. The developer could have shown some mercy by having added a running button. The many loading screens here were another blow to my enjoyment. The game game is divided into a bunch of small areas. They're all separated by loading screens, and while the actual load times are okay, the sheer amount of the times they occur are not. I literally had cases where I change a zone, walk for 15 seconds, and then change to yet another zone, meaning that I was now facing 2 loading screens within 15 seconds of each other. That was painful. Considering how simple the game's graphics are, I don't understand why there are so many of these loading screens. I'm sure they could have optimized this somehow. Besides talking to other characters and solving simple puzzles, the game also presents you with several temporal anomalies, which are both interesting to observe and very engaging. The game also does do a few things which I can only describe as creepy, but due to the fact that we are experiencing everything from the third perspective and quite far from the characters, I never found myself really unnerved by the game. It's not a scary game, but I guess it might be able to scare some people, although very few on a few occasions. Once you do beat it, you are shown that the story isn't quite resolved yet and are offered your next playthrough. This time there will be a few different things that were not there the first time around, and you will get a chance to do things the right way, or rather to get a true good ending. I guess it's kind of hard to describe because endings generally aren't bad. They all seem like they're pretty good. It's just that something happens that basically tells you gotta replay it to prevent that from happening. The game features many choices which also lead to many endings, and some of them are only possible after your first playthrough. This adds a good amount of replayability to the game. Personally, I only played it 2 times, but I know that there are still a ton of voice lines and choices that I haven't experienced yet. So if I wanted to do another playthrough, it would still feel fresh, at least to some extent. Oxenfree was a pleasant surprise. It's an easy game more focused on telling a compelling story about time travel, the value of friendship and love. For those of you who are looking for difficult puzzles or tons of action, this simply won't be the correct choice. But if you want to experience a well-told story based around the idea of a butterfly effect, then this is definitely a good one. I suspect that a lot of people might have gotten this game for free as I did, but if that's not the case, Oxenfree is currently available on Steam for €4, which is more than worth its asking price if you ask me, since there are currently special prices there due to the sale. So give it a shot. I think you'll like it. And with that being said, I want to also thank you for watching my videos, and I hope to see you on the next one. Until then, have a great day.
Okay, I'd like to know where this is going. Okay, I'd like to know where this is going.
Maybe don't antagonize whoever.
It's a good one.
I think they have a sense of humor.
Hey, come on!
Oh my god. Alex, can you believe...
My doctor's not gonna be happy with my blood pressure this year.
Yeah, mine neither.
Okay, this is gonna be fine. Just work through it. How am I... Is this an optical illusion or something?
Tell Michael to break up with Clarissa. It's for the best.
But Michael's dead. How could I even...
Wait, we've done this before.
What? We're still stuck? But I kicked the stupid ball and everything. What more do you want?
It's alright, we must have just missed, something.
Are you... Can you kind of remember more now?
It's starting to stick. Yeah, I mean, it's still sort of foggy, but whatever, I'll deal with it.
Huh. This is... It's just like the armoire in the cave. Super duper old, but in, like, new condition. It's one of those...
You know, I didn't realize I felt like a pressure in my head until right now. Maybe doing that fixed the loop. But whatever you did helped something, I think.
Really? It is?
I think. Let's just keep going and get Ren.